Well, I have this right here. Um,
Yay.
I have to say, I am not normally a poetry person. Not that I'm anti-poetry, I just don't read a lot of poetry. And I think
hmm
you may have convinced me that I need to start reading more poetry because this was fantastic. I never really realized that poetry also is like in the form of a story because it obviously followed like your journey.
Yes. And I wrote it like that on purpose so that it could be read like in order, like you would read any other book.
Yeah.
And because usually poetry books, people just open it to a page, okay, read a couple, put it back. But I
Uh-huh.
wanted it to be kind of like a flow like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I really liked it. I loved it's kind of like a poetry form memoir in a way.
Yeah, a little bit. And you're not the first person to say that to me. Well, I can't take all the credit. It's been my husband also. He puts it in people's hands and he's like, "Are you sure you don't like poetry? Like, just read a couple." And then they're like, "Oh, I actually really like this."
Well, it
So,
sounds
yeah.
like the journey that you went on paid off and you ended up with a pretty good husband.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, let's take a step back and I would love if you could just tell me a little bit about yourself. What do you do? Are you a full-time writer? How'd you start writing? Hey everyone, welcome back to a new episode of the Odyssey of a Novel podcast, the podcast where I sit down with indie authors to learn all about the journey and the work that led to their published book. Today, I am super excited to get to chat with Heather McMahon. Heather McMahon is an indie author and typewriter poet residing in Columbus, Ohio. Her debut book, I Was Always Worthy, came out in June 2025. It is a collection of poetry that explores themes of heartbreak, self discovery, and healing, emphasizing that worthiness comes from within. Perfect for those trying to find their way back to themselves. Heather is currently working on her first fiction novel, which will become a complete fantasy trilogy. To keep up to date on this and other projects, check out Heather on Instagram at Heather McMahon Writes. And if you're in or around Ohio, you can see her in person at Big Ohio Book Con the first weekend of June in Medina, Ohio. Let's jump in and hear all about Heather and her work. Yeah. So, as you were saying, you are a nanny and you've been doing
hmm
that for 12 years. 12 years you said?
hmm
You
Yes.
moonlight as a writer. Does that mean exactly what you're saying, that you're a nighttime writer, or that's just you saying you write in your spare time?
Actually, nighttime is usually when I'm getting it done because,
Okay.
or, I was saying like while the kids sleep, that's a good time for me to get it done. So
Mm-hmm.
just any spare time that I have, but really, like, especially getting my book done, I was going to the library at night after work.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah, it's very hard. Like, this is my office room, technically,
Uh-huh.
but it's very hard for me to focus. Like, I can't just sit here and do my work for some reason. But I have my library just 2 blocks away, so I just go
Oh,
there
that's
and
amazing.
it's very quiet and no distractions. Otherwise, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I have to get the laundry done or do this or do that. So, yeah, nighttime
Yes.
writing works for me.
I'm very good at coming up with chores that don't actually need to be done when I'm trying to write.
Exactly. Yes. For some reason, I'm just that kind of writer. I like procrastinate so badly, even though I
Yeah.
want to do it, but I don't understand.
I mean, I think you're describing all of us.
Probably. You see all everyone else and you're like, oh, okay. Makes me feel better.
Yeah, totally. Um, so when did you start writing?
Oh boy, like very young, like as soon as I could put pen to paper. I remember, I don't even know what the software was called, but there was some sort of thing when I was in like first or second grade that my dad was helping me with, just write a little story, but also we could put characters into it. So I made like this whole story on the computer. But
Cool.
I don't even know if that exists anymore, but I just distinctly remember like that's when it kind of started. I'm like, oh, I really like this. I've always had like this very vast imagination and coming up with stuff.
That sounds so cool.
Yeah.
All right, you'll probably see this one of my animals just
Oh,
popped up
hello.
into the screen. I live in a cabin in the woods and it's quite chilly. And so I have a blanket in my lap and it's a very soft, fuzzy blanket.
Mm.
And she's just been circling me while you've been talking and putting one paw on the fuzzy blanket. And I'm like, I get it. You can come up here. Don't worry.
I love cats.
Me
So cute.
too. I refer to her as my most loyal dog because she's the easiest one.
Love
Um,
it.
so when actually before I say when, can you tell us a little bit about your published book of poetry?
Yeah, so I am someone who always dealt with like unworthiness and, a lot of people can probably relate to that. So the title just kind of came to me. I was always worthy because it takes a while for any of us to kind of come to that realization. And I think of the book as like a journey through that and my own personal experiences, but then other people can relate to that too. And I want other people to realize that they have always been worthy as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it really resonated. It like, I don't want to give too much away, but it obviously starts off with kind of like the title poem,
Hmm.
and that energy, the like I was always worthy, and then it drops the reader into the earlier phases of your life when you weren't feeling that so strongly, and then you follow you via your poetry on the journey. Um, and like I said, like it truly reads like a story. And so I was very captivated. Um, and so how like some of the earlier poems, like what kind of lifespan does this cross for you?
Yeah, it's probably some of those very first ones go back like 20 years. I'm 34, so yeah, it goes back
Okay.
to like right the beginning of high school. And,
Yeah.
like usually some of us are going to go through heartbreak during that time. And I feel like for me, like, this is not me being like full of myself, but like I've always been like such a sweet soul and like I wasn't like really prepared for the real world type of like this is not exactly how love works. You don't just meet
Yeah.
someone in high school and then spend the rest of your life with them, but I was kind of in that romantic mindset um, that a lot of us are in high school because we don't know. But
Yep.
I had my heart absolutely shattered in high school and became like very kind of depressed after that. I was bullied for liking the person that I did, and it was this whole just crazy thing. But now looking back, I'm like, I think they were all jealous and they made that guy feel bad for liking me or whatever. So, yeah, it's kind of some of those earlier poems were definitely me dealing with those huge emotions at such a young age.
Yeah.
But then
Totally.
the unworthiness just carried on like well up until honestly just like I don't know 6 7 years ago when that was like really like a dropping point and then I met my wonderful husband and realized like what I'd been missing all along and it is something that you do have to come to of yourself, but honestly, like finding a person like that does help you like um realize your worth. It is hard sometimes to do that on your own. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean it certainly resonated for me. I have had my fair share of people that I picked that I shouldn't have picked and had my heart broken plenty of times and um the version of me now looks back like not with regret but because I actually genuinely think like I was meant to go through all of those experiences to
Hmm.
become the person that I am now and where I am in
Oh,
life now, you
absolutely.
know?
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Like, I wouldn't have this wonderful book of poetry, like, if I hadn't gone through all that. So I do think of it like that sometimes too. Like, that was my muse,
Yeah.
so to speak. So, yeah.
Yeah. Um, I am so curious to just learn a little bit more about like the writing and drafting process with poetry because it feels so and maybe I'm wrong because I know you're also and we're going to talk about this. I want to learn more about your fantasy book that you're working on.
Hmm.
But you would be able to speak to this doing both. Like it feels like it would be such a different process than writing a novel. And it also feels so
Yes.
much more vulnerable to put poetry out there.
It is, but it also has like just come kind of easily for me.
Hmm.
Um, just, well, this is related. I also do typewriter poetry. So, like, somebody gives me a topic and I'm at an event or something and I just type it up for them on my typewriter. And
Cool.
everyone is like, how do you do that? Like, how so quickly can you just come up with a poem? And it can be difficult at times, but most of the time, uh, things just come to me. Like, I don't know, I'm feeling a certain emotion that day, or I just look at a beautiful landscape and the words just flow right out. And I know
Yeah.
that's not how it is for everyone, and that's fine. Everyone has their different writing style. Um, but for me, that's just what I say. Like, it really just comes to me, and I obviously do a little bit of editing, tweaking, and things like that, but especially like those earlier poems, I wanted to leave them kind of raw, like how they were when I
Hmm.
wrote them at 16 years old or whatever. Um, but yeah, for the most part, I sometimes I start with a couple of lines and then I will finish it at a later date. But for the
Okay.
most part, it just the whole poem is there it is on the paper.
Yeah. Do you have you like studied poetry?
I have not, just in probably high school.
Yeah.
So that's why I kind of wrote as the subtitle collection of poetry and prose because it's not all structured poetry. But that's the wonderful, beautiful thing about poetry is yes, there are certain rules to it, but at the same time, there isn't. Like it can
Totally.
be whatever you want it to be. I've
Yeah.
really loved lately people writing the list poems of just what they see and things like that. And that's the beauty in it to me.
Totally. I agree. What you mentioned briefly like sometimes you'll go back and edit. What does the editing process look like with poetry?
So, most of the time, I will read it out loud to myself or to someone else and see how it sounds. And
Hmm.
a lot of my poems, I think, sound better when I'm reading them, like with the convictions and like the certain points that I'm trying to make. So, that's something that helps me fix any issues that I might be there or something, or like use a better word in place of something else.
Yeah. Yeah. How much like revision do you do generally?
Um, Not too much. Like like I said, it's just more like maybe change a word here, take that word out, that doesn't make sense or something.
Yeah.
And I used to post a lot of my poems on Instagram. I still kind of do,
Okay.
but uh most of these have already like been out in the world, like because I was
Hmm.
sharing them for so long. Um, yeah, so that kind of helped too because they're already out there and already have been I've looked at them many times. So, yeah, like I mean, this book being I like to say that it's like 7 years in the making ish because yes, I wrote those a long time ago, but it was only then that I really like was like, okay, I want to turn this into a book. And I kept telling
Yeah.
everyone, hey, my poetry book's going to come out this year. Hey, my poetry book's going to come out this year. And then I just never did it. But at the same time, right before I met my husband, I went through like another bad heartbreak sort of situation.
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, I needed those poems to go in the book. So that's why it wasn't published yet. Got it.
See, all meant to be. It happened for a
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, that came out with like some of my really best stuff. So
Yeah.
I'll take it, I guess.
Um,
Yeah.
I I love the change in length too. Like it and again, this is truly like the first poetry I've read since like high school. And so I don't know if that's common in poetry books, but it just like actually almost similar to prose, right? Like you're not encouraged to have the same structured sentence, the same length sentence throughout. You're,
Hmm.
short sentence, long sentence, but having like, a full length, page length poem, and then the next poem would be like 2 lines. And it'd be like, okay, well,
Yeah.
let's keep going. What happened next? Like,
Yeah, that wasn't necessarily on purpose, but yeah, I have kind of seen that actually in some other books that they start out with the shorter ones.
mhm.
But yeah, I never actually gave much thought to that, honestly. I was just more trying to make it be chronological
Yeah.
for the most part.
Yeah. Okay, I did wonder too. Like it felt chronological, but I was curious if there was any like,
Yeah, it might be scattered slightly, but for the most part, that was what I was trying to go for. Yeah. And I
cool.
put like the ones that didn't have to do with like the nanny one or about my grandmother, I put those in the beginning. So that was kind of
Okay.
like sectioned off because I wanted them to be included, but at the same time, like I just wanted them kind of get them over with in the beginning and then the rest kind of starts to flow a little bit better.
Yeah. Um, So tell me a little bit about the shift to the fantasy novel that you're writing. Was that always an intention of yours? What, yeah.
Yeah, so it's interesting because I never was like, oh, I'm going to publish. I was just always like, I'm a writer, I have all these ideas. It was never like, oh, I'm going to be an author necessarily. So that's been kind of an interesting transition, honestly. Like, as far as the poetry book, I was just like, I just want to hold my book in my hands. Like, that's my goal,
Yeah.
full stop. Um, so anything that comes after that is absolutely amazing, but really that's the dream come true. I did it. Congrats to me. Um,
Yeah.
but uh I think my early 20s I had my very first novel idea,
Okay.
and I have several, as I think a lot of us writers do. We have all these
Yep.
ideas.
Yep.
Um, and that one is still put to the side, but
Okay.
and I'll come back to it at some point. But going into like fantasy has been it's kind of the same way. It's kind of crazy how I've come up with this book idea is
Hmm.
because I was driving through Ohio before I had no idea I was going to be moving here from New York, where I'm from. Um, but I was driving through here, I saw a name on a sign and I kind of switched it around. I was like, oh, that'd be a good character name. And then it started to come to me, like I said with the poetry, like, oh, it could be
Yeah.
this and it could be that. Um, and I just really, really enjoy reading fantasy novels. I don't know if you know Amanda Hocking, but she's like one of my favorite authors in the fantasy field. Um, she has some great books. The Trill series is one of my favorites. Um, And yeah, it's just more like having the idea, and then I've had this idea for um the novel that I'm working on for several years now, and it's been coming along very, very slowly.
Yeah.
Um, it kind of leads into something else I was going to talk about is that I'm facing a lot of imposter syndrome lately with this, so then it kind of makes me procrastinate because the
Yep.
story's all up here, but I only really have like the prologue and like a couple pages done. Like it is not, I am not far in. I know what I want to happen. I have the like the beats planned out. I know what's going to happen. It's just sitting down and actually getting it out. I'm having a hard time with.
Yeah. No, I can totally relate to that actually. So, my novel came out in early December
Yeah,
and I did a
congrats by the
podcast
way.
interview. Well, thank you. Not about me. I'm just like I'm telling I don't want to monopolize in any way, but um I remember I was interviewing a young adult author and she was talking about her story and I'd read her book and I was just like so blown away that like even all of her side characters had like complete story arcs. And I was
Hmm.
like, panicking because I was like, oh my gosh, do my side characters have story arcs? Am I supposed to? Well, I shouldn't publish this book. Like I worked on my book for 7 years, so very very similar. But it's I mean it definitely hits all of us in different moments, and um, I just put together an online course for people to take to write, edit, and publish your book. And in the writing section, I talk a lot about that. Like, how do you overcome writer's block? How do you
Hmm.
overcome those moments of self doubt? And do you have any strategies that you've been using, or?
Um, so just to take it back just a little bit, I was stuck for a couple of years just in the research phase. And then I
Okay.
finally told myself a few months ago, why are you researching so much on something that's going to be fiction? Like
Yeah.
you're making it up, like it's your world, you're building this world. But I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, but the people who like know these certain places or whatever, I want it to be somewhat accurate. So I was stuck in that for literally years. I was at the library, like searching. So it takes place partly in Ireland. Like,
Okay.
okay,
That's what I was gonna ask.
yeah, what are the legends and like, what is this and what is that? And most of it I'm not even using anyway. But
Yeah.
I just kind of wanted it to be in my mind, like, okay, they think this. So,
Uh-huh.
um, yeah, that's what I was like stuck in for a long time. And right now, I'm getting out of it slowly, but I am getting out of it because of the poetry book and because I did that. So now I'm like, no, you can do this. Like, people like your writing, you can do it. But yeah, I am still kind of in a little bit in the midst of dealing with the imposter syndrome and trying to just get it done.
Yeah. Yeah. I I like did a post about this recently where, sometimes you have to sit in those moments and like let yourself not write, and then there comes a time when you literally just have to be like, "All right, I'm writing today. It might end up being complete crap, but I'm going to write." And that just like pushing through in that one moment always helps me get back into my routine a little bit. And that's the other piece. A first draft is just words. All you have to do is get the words on the page, and then you go back and edit, because this is different than poetry. Because you probably will replace every single one of those words.
Yeah. I guess maybe that is a little bit holding me back too because I'm thinking about like the fear of it not being perfect when I know that like what you just said I absolutely know that you just need to get it out but at the same time it just feels so daunting. So,
Yeah.
yeah. I've told people I was like, yeah, this book will be out in 2026. No, it's not going to be out in 2026. Maybe next year if I really buckle down, but yeah, it's gonna be a little bit.
But that's the beauty of being an indie author. Like, we have full control
True.
over that.
Exactly. And that's why I love self-publishing,
Uh-huh.
um, is having full control. Uh, and it's not easy, but it is easier in some ways. So yeah, I
Yeah.
really like that.
Yeah. Actually, I'd love to hear a little bit about your process. So putting your book together,
Hmm.
we'll set aside the fantasy novel for now and come back to your beautiful completed book of poetry. What do you use a specific software to write in? Did you use any software to format it? What were your tools that helped you the most?
Yeah, so I just have Microsoft Word and I am terrible with technology. It's just, I just am. I like have never really understood it. But somehow I got by. I was ready to like pay someone to format the book, but I'm like, you know what? Let me
Uh-huh.
just do my research. So then I just kind of went on Google and figured out how to do it. And I looked at other poetry books that are about the same length and size, and that's how I was able to format it directly
Okay.
in Microsoft Word because I just looked up the steps of how to
Yeah.
do it and it worked.
What about your cover? Did you make your cover?
That was directly in KDP that I
Oh,
uploaded. They
wow.
have yeah, they have cover design. They have a lot actually. They have a lot of options. And green is my
Cool.
favorite color, so I was just like, you know what? Green's good.
Me too.
Nice.
It's
And a
covered in
lot
a
of
lot of
people,
stickers
I'm
now,
in a
but
lot of like, oh, I'm in a lot of like author groups and stuff, and they were sometimes helpful, but I saw somebody else with this cover with almost the same cover, and I got a little like, oh man, they have like the exact same cover I do. So there is that aspect that you have to kind of be
yeah.
careful with. But at the same time, I'm like, no, like I love this. Like I just love how it turned out. So it worked out
Yeah.
really well. Um, and yeah, I just kind of had to, well, actually, I kind of gave like a date. I was like, okay, at the beginning of last year, I was like, it's coming out in June. So it got to
There you
be
go.
almost June, and I was still kind of behind, and I'm like, I know I have to get this done. I
Yeah.
told people it is coming out, so I don't
Yeah.
have any excuses anymore, and I just had to work on it and get it done. And that is something that worked for me, I guess, is the pressure.
Totally. I did the same thing. I set a release date for myself of December 2nd. And then I was like, I'm not gonna promote that. That's gonna be my internal deadline until I know I can hit it. And so I
Hmm.
got my um what did I do? I formatted it all in Ingram and then I put it together and I was like, okay, this is real. And I ordered my proof copy. And I was like, all that's left is for me to get my proof copy and edit that and do some edits in that and make sure it all looks good in there. And so then I started to promote my release date and my proof copies. This was like just like November 5th or 10th or something like that. My proof copy took like 2.5 weeks to arrive. So it finally showed up like the week before. And I was just like, I'm committed now. I told the entire world on social media that it's coming out next week. So
Yep.
I pulled like 3 very long days. I read my entire book cover to cover and like edited it. And then again, like I implemented all those edits in my software and uploaded a new PDF. And there she was. It was
Yeah,
tight. I would not recommend it. Now that I know how long it takes to get the proof copy, I won't do that again. But
right.
same. Like once the deadline's there,
Hey,
you're,
yeah, it works sometimes, right?
uh-huh.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, that was the journey with that. And
And
it,
can you talk a little bit about the process with KDP? Because I went with Ingram, so I don't personally have any experience with KDP, and I'm curious what that looks like.
yeah, this was another like I did a few months of watching a lot of YouTube videos and things like that to decide which company to go with, which platform. Um, and I honestly went with KDP for now, just because of the ease of it, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I watched a lot of videos of people comparing the different ones, and Ingram was like pretty on par, but at the same time, I was like, I just want something that's gonna be easy. That's just my very honest answer. I'm like, I just need to get this done, and I just want it out in the world, and so that's just what I went with. And I'm like, I don't understand technology again, so whatever is going to be the most user friendly for me is what I want to use, at least for this first book. I'm not sure, I might go with something else in the future, but yeah,
Yeah.
that was pretty much it.
Well, and I mean, I will openly admit that Ingram is not user friendly. I went
Okay.
with Ingram because I at working in a bookstore, like I know it's the best route for distribution for
Yeah,
bookstores and
true.
libraries, and that just became what I was familiar with from working in the bookstore. But it was like, as somebody who has that knowledge base, I work with these books and pull this information every single day. It was hard. And it's a lot of like data input and then like hitting the little question mark and being like, what does this mean? What do you need from me for this? And like,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I don't know if they have a book cover generator or anything like that. I think you have to upload your own, so that's another thing that they don't have. But it's not user friendly, but then once it's there, it's there.
Nice for distribution. Yeah, I chose expanded distribution so people can order from Ingram, and that's how I have it in a
Cool.
couple of bookstores. And also, I've been directing people to like bookshop.org, which I
Uh-huh.
think you said, because I
Yeah.
do like to help out with like the local bookstores and such.
Yeah. Totally. I actually only discovered bookshop.org recently, and
Yeah.
they just started doing ebooks, and so I switched up
Oh, I
my
didn't know
like
that.
marketing to direct people for because I have an ebook of mine. And I was like, go to bookshop.org.
Hmm. Oh yeah,
Um,
mine is available in ebook, but actually the ebook, well, I kind of sorry, trying to think. I think it's like free on Kindle Unlimited, but the formatting for that was a little interesting
yeah,
for the ebook because I look at it on my phone and it doesn't look right, but then you look at it like on a laptop or something, it looks fine. So I'm like, I don't know. I don't know about the ebook process actually.
that's same with mine. To be honest, I have these like fancy chapter headers, and I when I saw my ebook, I was like, oh God, and I had to remove them from that. So it's definitely not as cool as the print version,
Hmm.
but it's there. It exists.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Um,
I was like, if somebody wants to read it like for free, essentially, at least they can access it.
yeah. So, hey folks, we still have a little bit more left with Heather, but I wanted to pop in real quick and say two things. One, if you are interested in learning more about becoming an indie author, head on over to the indieauthorschool.com. It is the partner online academy for the podcast. I run it, I created it, and it is a, not to toot my own horn, but a wealth of knowledge on planning, writing, editing, publishing, formatting your book, what you need to have a book that sells, marketing your book, all of it. Two, if you enjoy this podcast, as a reminder, I do this 100% at my own expense, purely to provide a platform for other indie authors to market their books. The best things that you can do in order to support this podcast are one, become a paid subscriber to our Substack, The Writer on the Water, or the Indie Author School. There's two now. Or two, rate, review the show, review this episode, follow us, subscribe on whatever platform you listen to podcasts, also YouTube, also Substack. Those are all free things you can do, but truly any traction you provide to the podcast helps get us more traction. And then hopefully, maybe one day, sponsors. And I'm not doing this out of my own pocket. And indie authors continue to have this platform for their books. Thanks again for listening, and let's jump back in with Heather. Um, with your writing process, with your poetry, um, do you like, I know it's very, it sounds like it's very in the moment inspirational, like what you're feeling in that moment, but do you ever set any goals, or do you have like any triggers that help you write, like a playlist or a place or
Mm.
anything like that?
That's a great question. I do have a playlist like for the fantasy novel, but sometimes I'll
Cool.
put that on just when I'm doing poetry or something. I actually
Uh-huh.
had a writers group meeting yesterday and I stayed, so we just kind of did our own thing. And I stayed afterwards. I wrote like 7 or 8 poems, like just in
Cool.
the span of like, I don't know, an hour and a half or something.
Yeah.
So, yeah, sometimes it's just instrumental music, just something. Usually it involves music and quiet. So,
That makes
quiet
sense.
around me, but then the music in my ears.
Yeah.
Um, because that just helps
Yeah.
me focus. And I actually felt a little, I was like, I hope I'm not being rude because this was our first meeting yesterday. And I'm like, okay, well, now that we're doing our own thing, I'm just gonna put my headphones on. You can still talk to me, like if you have to, but this is the only way I'm gonna get in the zone. Otherwise, I'm distracted.
I feel like writers understand. Like we all have our own
Yeah,
process.
true. Yeah.
How, how did you find your writing group?
Um, so I'm in Columbus and there's Columbus Women's Writer Group, and this is just a chapter of it. I said, yeah, I can help run that. So, yeah, yesterday
Cool.
was our first meeting. It was fun.
When you published your book of poetry, did you have anybody like read it in advance? Did you use like beta readers like novel writers often do?
Not in that way, but yes, like people were reading it. I was like kind of not bouncing ideas exactly, but just making sure that they made sense and things like that. So people were reading it, but not in like the beta reader kind of way, if
That
that
makes
makes
sense.
sense.
Yeah, well, and you also said you would post a lot of them on Instagram. So
Yep.
you
So
have seen.
I was getting feedback from people often.
That totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, I totally skipped over this question earlier, but it's one of my favorite questions, so I'm going all the way back to what would have been the beginning to ask this one. Um, what is the first thing that you wrote that stands out to you? Whether it's the first thing you remember writing or the first thing that you like really liked that you wrote, anything.
Oh yes, I have notes in front of me and I was like, why did I write this? But it was the answer to this question. Um, so I said that I used to write a lot of stories as a kid. So
Hmm.
there's this children's book that I've written
Okay.
and not published yet, but I wrote it when I was just in sixth grade. And like it was at an after school program. It's all laminated and nice. And then in 10th grade, we had to write some sort of story with a good uh good moral at the end of it because it was
Hmm.
going to be read to second graders or something.
Yep.
And I was like, you know what? I already have this story. Let me just like kind of revamp this. And I did all the illustrations in it and um things like that. So that
Wow.
one, yeah, it I redid it and now that long ago, like 20 years almost, uh I'm thinking about actually publishing that. I want it to kind of be like a board book possibly. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
What's it about?
multifaceted. So it's called Mike the Mouse Goes on a Journey.
Amazing.
Yeah, and there are kind of like other books like that ever since, but you know, the original ideas and stuff. I'm like, well, I can only tell it this way.
Hmm.
So, um, yeah, he is just a lonely mouse and he goes on a journey like trying to find a friend, basically. But yeah, that's really like what stands out to me because that was the first thing that, even though it was just laminated pages together, I drew that, I wrote it, so it's like a
Yeah.
physical thing. I'm like, do I have it around me? I don't think so, but it's around here somewhere.
Well, what's funny is that your book of poetry
Oh,
is also kind of you going on a journey to find yourself. Oh my gosh, there it is.
so this is the sixth grade one. Yeah,
Oh,
but
this is okay.
this is the sixth grade version. The
That's
updated, like
amazing.
better version is in my safe because I need it protected.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But yeah, I just reached out. I really didn't know that it was here, but anyway,
That's so
yeah.
cool.
So that could be out in the world soon. We'll see.
Totally. Yeah. So for publishing your book or thinking about publishing your next book, did you consider going the traditional route or have you always wanted to be an indie author?
Yeah, I never really considered it. Maybe for a moment, but then once I saw like it takes so long and you don't have a lot of control, I was like, I don't like that. And now
Yeah,
that I have self-published, I kind of feel like that's the way I want to go moving forward.
that's
And
so
I
cool.
have friends that are trying to traditionally publish, and that's great. I don't think there's one better than the other necessarily. Um, yeah, but for me, it was honestly never like a thought because, like I said, it's all kind of new to me in terms
Hmm.
of wanting to be like an author. I was just like, I like to write. That's what it is. So it's kind of like me becoming this author type person.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah. But I know going into like the fiction novel space, it's going to be a whole different roller coaster, like hiring someone to do the book cover and hiring an editor and things like that. But it's still the way I want to go for sure.
Yeah, that's cool. So thinking about that, your experience as a whole, what is your favorite part about writing or publishing or any of it?
So the first thing that comes to mind is like the effect that I see that I have on people is pretty wild, honestly. I have had people, so last year I attended a big book con and it was just 2 weeks after my book had come out. And it was a 2 day event. So people bought my book on the first day and were coming to me the next day in tears, saying, "This is wonderful. This is just what I needed." And some typewriter poetry I did has brought people to tears. And I'm like, I don't know how to feel about this. Like, I feel so flattered and I feel so like the human connection, I guess, has been the
Wow,
best part of this. Um,
that's
it's really,
amazing.
really beautiful. Uh, I had a book signing a few weeks ago and wasn't getting much traffic, but right towards the end, this woman came and she's like, "Oh, your book, like this is so beautiful." Like she was so drawn toward it. And she's like, I absolutely want a typewriter poem too." So I made her one and it was kind of like she felt a little lost. And so I wrote her something that could be a daily reminder. And I read it to her and she just cried. And she's like, "Can I give you a hug?" And I'm like, "Absolutely. Like, you just made my day." And she's like, "You made my day. Like, I love this so much. I'm going to tell everyone about it." And moments like that, like, I was like, okay, I don't even care that, like, this signing was kind of a bust because I had that moment. Like, that's why I was here.
Yeah,
So if I can
that's
even
so
connect with
cool.
just one person that my words move them in that way, that's
Yeah,
what it's all about to me.
that's so cool that you just kind of in the moment wrote something for her,
Yep.
like your typewriter poetry. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's so
exactly.
cool. Um, I love that. And I mean, relatedly, you obviously are getting people who aren't poetry readers into poetry. So that's
Yeah.
another impact you're having on people.
I have told people that like, well, just a little side anecdote. At that book convention, someone came up and she said, "Yeah, I have a master's in poetry." I was like, "Okay, please don't look at this because I don't." But she flipped through some anyway. She's like, "Yeah, these are really simple, but they're good." And for a moment, I was a little hurt about that. I was like, "Oh, simple." But then I really reflected on it and I was like, "Okay, it is kind of simple, but that's how I'm reaching so many people." Because
Yeah,
other forms of poetry are like too dense, too hard for people to read, and possibly too hard for them to connect with. And I'm being able to reach people because they can actually relate to it instead of they start reading and they're like, "What is going on here?" They can read my poetry and be like, "Wow, this is simple but profound." And I mean, I'm bringing out a lot of big emotions for people when they read my work. So I'm like, fine, call it simple. That's okay.
I mean, that is so true though, that like now you saying that, I'm like, oh, maybe I shouldn't read other poetry. Because I didn't think it was simple. I just thought like it so well conveyed emotions that are very common,
Mm.
that a lot of people struggle with. And so it was very relatable.
It's something that, like, I'm kind of dealing with, especially lately. And then I have the moments like that where I'm like, oh, people really do love this. But
Hmm.
I go to like different writers groups and different, there was something at the library the other day. And the way some other people write, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's my turn to read my stuff, I don't know if anyone's gonna like it because it's not like theirs. But then I read it and my style is so different that people are like, wow, that was amazing. So I have to stop like comparing myself and being
Yeah.
like, well, oh, theirs is great, but so is mine. Just because it's different doesn't mean that it's wrong or
Yeah.
bad. People are loving it and it's just not the same as everyone else, which is a good thing.
Yeah. Um, well, I guess relatedly, maybe that's a good segue. What is the hardest part or your least favorite part about writing and publishing?
Oh boy. Um, hardest part, I guess, is being in my own way. Kind of like I said before, just having limiting beliefs because
Yeah.
I know I can do it, and it's so funny that like that's the theme of my poetry book is worthiness, but I still struggle with it. I think it's going to be a lifelong thing, but we kind of need to be there for each other, especially as writers, and have good community around us to remind us that like, no, you're fine, like you've got this, because
Hmm.
I do stand in my own way a lot, and it's really not as hard as I think it's going to be. And I worry about criticism, but at the same time, everyone's going to get some sort of criticism or what whatever it may be. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's the hardest part is like I'm scared that somebody's going to just absolutely tear it apart and be like, this story was terrible, like something like that. But I just have to remind myself that somebody's going to love it. If one person loves it, that's good enough for me. Everyone else can
Yeah.
tear it apart. I don't care.
Maybe you need to read your own poetry back to you to remind yourself.
I do. It's funny you say that because sometimes I will go back and read what I've wrote, and sometimes you like forget that you wrote that, and it
Yeah.
like
Yes.
it gives myself, I get goosebumps, and I'm like, I wrote that, like I wrote
Yeah.
that, what?
Yeah.
So sometimes I am my own biggest fan. Sometimes I'm like,
Yeah.
you got this, girl, wow, that's so good. But other times I'm like, this is very like juvenile or something, I don't know.
That's the joys of novel writing. Then when once you write those chapters and you're like, oh, this one was very juvenile, and then you rewrite the whole chapter.
I'm ready for it because I really want to get this story out in the world too. I mean, I have it set
Yeah.
up. I have it it's going to be a trilogy.
Okay.
So, I already know that that's going to happen. I sure if I'm skipping ahead, you can stop me, but uh um I'm really terrible at like the elevator pitch for my
Uh-huh.
novel. I have like one line. When people ask what it's about, I give them the one line. I'm like, that's all I have because
Okay.
I don't know. That's been something that's very difficult for some reason for me
Yeah.
to come up with unless I'm going to read like paragraphs and basically tell you how the whole book is going to go out. I don't know. I'm really bad at like condensing like this is what my book is about. Get excited.
What is your one line?
My one line is it's about Brixley, who is a fairy, and she's actually half human in a world where humans don't exist.
Huh. That's
Yeah,
very
and
unique.
yeah, and that's what I hear, and people are like, wait a second, that's different. Okay, I'm interested. So,
Yeah. Very interested.
yeah, but that's
That's
all I've
cool.
got. Like, obviously, I know what happens, but I don't want to go down. I don't know how to do that, but I'll work on it.
Do you have like an outline?
Sort of. It's in my head though, it's not on paper. And
Okay.
I've done like I said, I've done a lot of like research, like getting the story beats right and stuff, but it's just here. It's not
Mm-hmm.
out. Because I think I'm more of like a just sit down and write it, kind of like a pantser, so to speak. Not so much outlining because I know what's going to happen. It just has to unfold.
Yeah. I'm definitely a plotter and I rely so heavily on my outline when
Okay.
I don't know what to write. So like if I sit down on my computer and I'm like I have no idea what to write right
Mm.
now, I will go over at the outline and be like, okay, I guess I'm just gonna, I'm gonna pick this plot point and I'm gonna write a little bit for that right now.
You
Might
know,
erase it all
maybe
later, but
maybe I could benefit from a little bit of that. Maybe I need like a little bit of both. Just to say, okay, this is what you're going to write today, and then do that. Something like that.
those are
Because
called
every
plantsers.
okay, there you go. I think that's probably me. Because every other area of my life, I love things planned to a T. But I guess
Interesting.
yeah, it is different. I don't know how to explain that about myself, but that's just how
Yeah.
it is.
That's funny. I have a lesson in my online course that is are you a plotter or a pantser? And I start I like basically for each I did plotters like some questions like are you a type A personality? Do
Mm,
you have a place for everything? Um do you hate having notifications on your phone? Like those kind of things. And like so it sounds like you would have answered yes to all the plotter questions, but actually you're
yeah.
mostly a pantser.
Maybe I'm a plantser throughout my life
Yeah.
and I'm just not realizing that. Some sort of plan, but a little bit of organized chaos, let's put it that way.
Yeah, that's just life, organized
True.
chaos, right?
True.
Sometimes not so
Yeah.
organized. Um, so, do you have any advice? I want to ask this specifically for poets, to be honest.
Okay.
Do you have any advice for poets who want to publish a book of poetry someday?
I do. I think don't be afraid to be vulnerable because that's what poetry is. I feel like this is my diary out in the world, and it might feel like that to you too, but if it's important to you, it's going to be important to someone else too. They're going to feel that emotion. So don't be afraid to be vulnerable and put it out there.
Yeah, that's very beautiful, and that's very true. And I actually would say that applies to every type of writing, but
Yeah, that's
particularly
true.
poetry, because I do think it's a very vulnerable writing form.
Yeah, a lot of people feel that way. I have just always been very like open with my emotions. Like everyone kind of knows what's going on already, but I know a lot of people are more private, but it's going to resonate with somebody and somebody needs
Yeah,
your words. So
yeah.
just publish it.
So I think I know the answer to this question. Actually, I definitely know the answer to this question, but I'm still going to ask it anyways. If you were offered a publishing deal right now, whether for your book of poetry or for your future fantasy trilogy, would you take it?
Actually, that's a little more difficult to answer, but I don't think so.
You don't
I
think
don't
so?
think
Why
I
not?
would. I don't know. I still just really like my own creative process, my own control over it. I don't want
Hmm.
somebody else's hands on it, but that's just my
Yeah.
opinion.
Well, and you mentioned earlier too, which is something I only learned recently. My last episode that came out, um, I interviewed the owner of a hybrid publishing company, and
Mm. Oh yeah, I listened to that
she,
one actually. Hmm.
thank you. Um, she talked about publishing timelines, and I had never known before how long the publishing timeline is for a traditional book. So like had I, I had my vision of my book coming out in 2025 and had I somehow ended up getting a publishing deal towards the end of 2025, that The Last Empress wouldn't be in the world probably until 2027, which is so
Hmm.
wild to me how long those timelines are.
Yeah, so for the most part, I still want like pretty much full control. But at the same time, like if I was actually faced with that, I'm not sure how I would answer. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like if the
totally.
offer is in front of me, would I say yes? I don't know. I really don't
How big
know.
is that check?
Yeah. Like I'm getting how much? I mean, just be honest.
Totally. It's true. You wave enough money and it's easy to think about it for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um so last question, where can folks find you? What's the best place to buy your book and where can people stay in touch or keep up with you and your work?
Sure. So my landing page is my Instagram for right now, at least. So
Okay.
that's Heather McMahon Writes on Instagram. And you can find my book locally if you're in Columbus, Ohio, at a few stores. And they're all posted on my Instagram. and on Amazon, bookshop.org. I think it's even on Thrift Books. So just
Cool.
search for I Was Always Worthy by Heather McMahon and you'll find it.
Awesome.
I did want to
Awesome.
share one more thing that
Please do.
not very many people know, but I am hoping to have a chapbook of poetry coming out in just a couple of weeks.
No way.
Yeah.
That's
So
cool.
that's part of what I said I was working on yesterday
Uh-huh.
was those poems. So I have around 20 poems. I didn't even know what a chapbook was until last month. But I'm like,
I
"Oh, I
don't
can
know what
put
that
out."
is.
So basically, it doesn't have to be very long. It's like a very small collection
Okay.
of poetry. So it can
Like a
be
serial kind of.
anywhere from like 15 poems to like maybe 40. I don't think there's a hard and fast rule necessarily, but just like a little one. And I've had this idea for a while, so yeah, follow me on Instagram to see that, but it should be coming out hopefully the end of this month.
You gonna stick
Uh
to that deadline?
I hope so because the deadline is there because I want to actually enter a contest that
Oh, cool.
uh yeah, a local poetry contest and it has to be published by March 1st. So I'm like, that's
There
kind of
you
my
go.
deadline.
You have
But
an external
yeah,
deadline now. So,
yeah, so that one is going to be poems inspired by and about Ireland. So,
cool. That
yeah.
actually sounds really cool.
Yeah. It's going to be a good one.
You have a couple in the book that like are, written from here, written here.
Mm-hmm.
So you've definitely done some traveling, it seems like.
Yeah, I just went my third trip to Ireland back in October and that was like a research event, but I also went like for my birthday, to be honest.
Cool.
But
Yeah.
yeah, and then after I got back, I had the idea to like write something like that, but then I learned what a chapbook was and this contest and everything. I'm like, "Oh yeah, I can put out like 15, 20 poems and that's perfect."
That's awesome. Well, I can't wait to see that.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Do you have a title for it, or are we not sharing that yet?
I'm gonna keep it to myself just for now. I mean,
Okay.
just in case things go sideways or something, but yeah, you can just be on the lookout.
Awesome. Well, that is super exciting. Can't wait.
Yeah, thank you.
And that's all for this episode. As a quick update, Heather's newest book of poetry did come out. You can find all of that information on her Instagram, Heather McMahon Writes. We'll see you next time. Odyssey of a Novel podcast is a Writer on the Water Press production. All writing, editing, and producing are done by Emily Elizabeth.